going through COVID, I think, has been difficult for all of us. I mean, I actually have several friends that are no longer in ministry. Churches are shut down. I think we'd all agree it's a different landscape even to do ministry these days. It's so polarized and so many challenges, especially here in Portland, West Side, East Side. I know we've all got our challenges. I think what we did, we discovered is like, we went through all of this and we're like, what really matters here? And we leaned back into what is our why? Why are we doing what we're doing? And not just me and my wife, but our elders, because we got down to a really small team about, I mean, like, are we even going to make it?
Welcome to Jesus in the Upper Left, where we're talking about gospel multiplication in the Pacific Northwest.
So today on the Jesus in the Upper Left podcast, we are so excited to have Scott Bradley and Mario Reyes with us. Scott is a good friend of mine. We've known each other for 7 years now, just serving alongside one another in the Rockwood neighborhood of East Portland and Gresham, and just a guy that I've learned a lot from and really respect. And I'm so happy to hear from his perspective and for you guys to meet him today. So, Scott, why don't you just share a little bit about your background, who you are, what you're up to?
Right. Thanks, Pete. Yeah, it's an honor to serve with you and the other faith leaders and community leaders out here in Rockwood. As Pete had mentioned, I'm Scott Bradley. I am the lead pastor and church planter of asis.church, which also incorporates under our umbrella. We have the Hope Center, which is a community center based 182nd and Yamhill out here in Rockwood. And we have multiple ministries. We have the Underground PDX, which is a youth fitness mentoring program, and a bunch of other things in which Mario is a coach, mentor, and he's come through the program for the past 8 years. And I'll let him share here in a second. I'm married. Been with my wife, Gwenna, for 25 years. I have 2 daughters, one Macy, she's 20, and another one, Sophie, 17. Our ministry is a family affair, so my wife and I both run a lot of the ministries and oversee the coaching, the development of leaders and that sort of thing, especially on the fitness side. And then our daughter, Macy, is also coaching and mentor of girls here through our outreach to the community and our fitness classes. And we work out together all the time. That's just kind of what we do. If you were to ask us what are our core values as a family or like as a church, it's faith, family, fitness, fellowship, and freedom. So it kind of all ties it in together. You got to have the five, you got to have the 5 F's, So we planted this church 12 years ago out of a living room. Prior to that, I was on staff with a large church here in the East Side. And then prior to that, I was in the secular world. My story, real quick, is just a broken home, broken family, father in prison. I had a lot of challenges in my own life. And I mean, I could spend days talking about all of that, but the basis of our ministry is to help. The reason we planted the church, because there are a lot of churches, a lot of really good churches already out here in East County and Portland, but we wanted one we wanted to develop a culture that was truly accepting and inclusive of people that are broken, hurting, addicted, diverse, marginalized. And a lot of it was just birthed out of my own story. Like, how can we reach the people who've come out of the types of things that me and a lot of my friends and people that I felt comfortable around? And so that's how we birthed As Is. And we've seen a lot of healing in our family and my family. And we really think that, as you guys, everyone who's probably watching this believes that it is through our faith, through our Lord Jesus Christ, that we find healing and wholeness and new life in Him. And so that's what we offer through the Hope Center and through the ministries of As Is. And I think I kind of want to have Mario share a little bit here. We launched. The other thing separate from this is my wife and I are really involved in the CrossFit community, the fitness community tied to CrossFit affiliates. And we've been part of a gym for about 11 years. And we saw the changes. We saw the atmosphere of group fitness. and the mentorship and the growth in our own lives, and we want to offer that to at-risk youth. And so about 8 or 9 years ago, we started I just started ministering with my wife and a couple other people on the side doing CrossFit with youth, and we called it Grit Underground. And the first group of youth that came in as we partnered with gang outreach workers, Mario was in 7th or 8th grade. Now he's 21, a coach and mentor here, but he came through the program, and just so proud of him and what the Lord has done in his life and his commitment to becoming a new person himself. I mean, would you agree that this has been a good? Why don't you share a little bit about who you are, how you got involved?
Yeah.
Yeah. So my name is Mario Reyes. I'm a coach and intern here at the Underground at asis.church, and pretty much I grew up my whole life right here in Rockwood. I never really like traveled anywhere, until like last year, really. And then I grew up with 4 siblings, and we'd always live in a 2-bedroom apartment, so that was kind of rough, And my parents split up when I was 11 years old. I was in middle school. I was 6th grade, and like pretty much I just started getting in like a lot of trouble, doing a lot of like negative things, because I felt like like it didn't matter anymore, right? And then I met Scott when I was in 8th grade, and it gave me something to focus my energy on, so I'll focus my energy on just working out, trying to do better. And I was doing good for like a good year, and then I fell off track, like pretty much all through high school. Like we weren't part of the program. I went back to doing all the same things I was doing before.
Where were you going to high school, Mario?
I went to Reynolds High School. Yeah, so I was even Reynolds High School. I was getting in fights. I graduated a year late. I barely went back to get that, and yeah, pretty much until the program started up again. I was like, I didn't know what I was gonna do with myself. Right, I didn't know if I was just gonna keep going down this bad road, or I was just gonna clean it up and just work a regular job. But Scott told me that he wanted me to be part of the program again, and so pretty much ever since he invited me back in, to start up the program. I haven't gone back.
Yeah.
He's. I just want to add a little bit. Here's the deal. When we started working with these youth early on, I grew to love these kids.
Yeah.
We're working them out. And there's a whole handful of them. Like, these are my sons.
Yeah. And
what I learned about them and the different challenges that they were facing culturally in their parents. It's just a different culture. I had to learn a lot. Because when we started ministering, doing at-risk work with youth, I thought I'm going to help these kids that went through what I went through, like dad in prison, drug addiction, multiple marriages. What I learned a lot, especially kind of with the first group that came through, they were primarily Latino youth. And I realized right away, I don't know a whole lot about the challenges they were facing until we actually started spending time together. And it just changed my whole perspective and contextually on how we minister and how we love these guys, and it really opened me up to listen and learn about people that are different from me when we're talking about having a diverse culture and multicultural, multi-ethnic church and all this stuff, because I just realized how narrow my thinking was anyways. Like, I remember when we were coaching these guys, during the first election, and there was a lot of push towards immigration and picking up undocumented, and ICE was out, and some of these kids were coming in, with tears in their eyes, afraid their parents are going to get picked up and stuff like that. And I was just like, no one's touching me. I mean, until you live in their world a little bit, you don't understand the challenges people are facing. And so that's one of the big things. And so we shut down the underground prior to COVID and all that. And then when we ramped it back up, Pete, you had mentioned somewhere in here about kind of transitions in church planting and all that. Our church had grown to a place where we had multiple campuses, and we had partnered with another church, and we had our own property down in Southeast. And during COVID, my wife was a long COVID, dealt with long COVID for a year and a half, breathing, neurological issues, like just challenging. And then I actually had a stroke during that time. That's a whole nother story. But we were sitting at home asking God, what are we really supposed to do with our lives? Because we're driving all the way out to Southeast. We live in Gresham out here, Rockwood area, not directly in Rockwood, but this is our community. And God showed us, look, go back and do called you to do work in Rockwood. Put your investment in Rockwood. Go back to ministering to the youth and the families. And I remember sitting with Pete multiple times, almost in tears with him, like, I can't do this, church. This is not how I'm wired. I'm like more of a missionary. Like, I know God's calling us back to Rockwood, and Pete was very encouraging. And every door I knocked on to try to come back out to Rockwood is just like everyone was going through their own transitions and churches and organizations, and nothing was really opening up. But the one thing we did start doing is we partnered with a little church here in Rockwood that has a barn on their property, just a tiny little 1,000-square-foot barn. And I partnered with this pastor and said, hey, we realized doctrinally and theologically we were kind of on, he's just old school. We're trying to serve the community. But I convinced him to let us remodel this barn on this property that was in a good site. So we remodeled this barn, and we started the underground ministry back up. And that's when I called Mario and some of the other kids that I cared about. And he just happened to be gone. Recently went through some difficult times and was ready. I feel like it was the Lord's timing in his life, and he's been all in ever since. And one of the things the Lord put on my heart directly with Mario was mentor him and bring him in like a son. And since the last about year and a half, I've just said, God said, this is my disciple right here. Like, and he brought him into our family. We've taken him on family trips. He's friends with, our family. We flew out to CrossFit competitions, and it's just been a lot of really amazing experiences for both of us. And so we had to go, Gabe and Pete, we had to go from, I know me personally, leading this church for 12 years. There was a time in Rockwood prior to COVID and prior to all that where we were running 2 campuses, popping at the seams, multiple services, and that was all great. But I really feel like the work we're doing now and the focus on missional, I mean, we've always been missional and worked in the community, but it really has all come to fruition during this season of the last couple years. And I can share a little more about that if you'd like, or if there's anything else you'd like me to discuss.
I mean, Gabe, you might have a question, but I just want to follow up with that. Like, it feels like the Spirit has been moving in a powerful way in our community, like the last 3 years. And I don't know if that COVID was a wake-up call. I mean, I know it was a wake-up call for a lot of people to get reconnected to Christ, or to get sober, or to get free from any kind of addiction. But I also just think me and Salty have been praying together every Wednesday at noon. And a lot of times it was the 2 of us. And then the last 6 months, there's been like 8 of us, and representing all these ministries. And God's just doing something out here with you guys, the doors that have been opened for the Hope Center and for We Belong, and, with what Josue is doing, and then Skate Church is coming. I mean, it's just like all these things that that I've been praying for 7 years. You've been praying for 12 years. And there's been so many challenges and fits and starts. And, yeah, it's just never give up. You never know when somebody's going to come back around. And I love that you share that, Mario, of like, yeah, it's never a straight line, man. It's never just like, oh yeah, I just, got saved when I was 14 and I've been walking with the Lord. It's just like, yeah, but it's amazing what God's doing. And I think it fits so well with like Gabe and I, our passion of multiplying leaders. I mean, you have multiplied yourself with Mario, and then he's mentoring the high school students now and the 8th graders now. And through that, through the vehicle of fitness.
Yeah, this is a beautiful, what a beautiful expression of the kingdom, I think, in Rockwood. The fact that, Scott, you asked ahead of time, can I bring Mario with me? That was so cool just to know you got somebody who means so much to you that, in some ways, like if you go, he goes, and you can kind of see that. And I'm sure, Mario, that means a lot to you to have this sort of that's awesome. You're listening right now.
Call myself Father Reyes to him, but
that's yeah. So, one of the things, Scott, that I'm kind of looking at, because I think a lot of us leaders around the Portland metro area, I'm in Aloha, which is often kind of like referred to as the Rockwood of the West Side. I don't know if you know that or not, but kind of similar scenario in some ways, where there's, definitely some pretty acute needs. And in traditional church ministry, it can be really difficult to create momentum in like the typical metrics. You mentioned, you had multiple campuses, multiple services, and it sounds like post-COVID, those things are different for your church. Can you describe a little bit about what that looks like now?
Sure. Going through COVID, I think, has been difficult for all of us. I actually have several friends that are no longer in ministry. Churches are shut down. I think we'd all agree, it's a different landscape even to do ministry these days. It's so polarized and so many challenges, especially here in Portland, West Side, East Side. I know we've all got our challenges. I think what we did, we discovered is like, we went through all of this and we're like, what really matters here? And we leaned back into, what is our why? Why are we doing what we're doing? And not just me and my wife, but our elders, because we got down to a really small team about 2 years ago. Like, are we even going to make it? And it was just based on like, what are we doing here? Discipleship we've got Scott McCracken as the chairman of the elders here. Gabe, I'm not sure if you've met Scott.
I don't think so.
He's widely known on the East Side, just a really solid man of God, and
he's my hero, basically.
He's all of our hero. There's Jesus and there's Scott McCracken. I don't know who's more pure, but we're kind of basically. He's the head of the elders, but also has just this passion for discipleship. And we leaned into discipleship. What does that look like for our church? We went away from so much of the attractional ministry, like, okay, yeah, we still have traditional services and all this stuff, but what is our focus in the community? And my heart is very outward focused. So just creating this team that's diverse to help us, carry this load into the future. I would probably say that what looks different now is our transition from a traditional model to more of a community-based organization model. And so by that, I mean, it kind of organically happened. It wasn't like there was a 5-year plan to become a CBO, but our work with the underground, which was very, it wasn't in the structure and the system. I mean, it's just something we kind of did on the side. The city of Gresham came to me after we started this up again. I just had a passion for it and said, we've got this money that's been allocated to our youth services division to help the community, other CBOs, community-based organizations, to help fund programs to help prevent youth violence, to provide pro-social programs, to do wraparound services. And they're like, it's what you're doing. Do you want to apply for it? And I had never really applied for a grant. We had been the traditional model before, like tithes, offerings, some gifted givers. But even that was running dry. I mean, we were in the hole every month as the church is dying. And so I wrote the first grant a couple years ago, and we received funding to hire one person over at the barn, not me, but to hire a director for the underground and buy some equipment, like 20 grand for equipment or something. But then that opened the door to a couple other pretty big grants, because once we got one and we brought in a grant writing team, we just started getting more and more interest. And once we were awarded the grant of the city of Gresham, we were brought as a faith-based organization, as is church, to the table with the city of Gresham PD, ERCO, POIC, New Avenues for Youth, all these big organizations. We, like God, I really feel like the Lord opened us up to give us a seat at the table with all these players that are across Multnomah County, Washington County, the state of Oregon. Like Mario, through this whole process, we've been down to Salem to lobby for funding. Mario went before the governor. I mean, this guy is like this guy's like a high roller here, you guys. I just felt, but when the Lord opened the door for us to be, it was just like a natural progression. All the dominoes started falling. And we were able to add. Basically, we went from about 4 part-time staff members to currently we're at 22 staff members.
Wow.
6 part-time or 6 full-time, and then some interns and some other part-time staff. And we're still, you guys, I don't know if you want to put this on the podcast, but I had the city of Portland reach out to me yesterday and they're like, we want to fund your work all the way down into Portland.
Yeah.
We have this funding.
Love it.
You. And I'm like, Lord, I don't know what I'm doing here, because it was just a couple years ago I was ready to toss it. I was like,
yeah.
But going back to what we love. And so it's a pretty cool story. I'd like to share it. The way we ended up here at this location and opening the Hope Center here on 182nd and Yamhill, it was based on our work as a CBO, as is Church the Underground. About a little over a year ago, there was a riot next door where we're at currently, which is 182nd and Yamhill, in an apartment, a low-income apartment complex called Rockwood Village. They have 1,000 residents, 400 kids, and it's recently been built. It's through Hacienda CDC, but it's primarily immigrants and refugees that live there. The primary languages are Swahili, Somali, Ukrainian, and Spanish, which creates a lot of tension, culturally, and just so for Multnomah County, Rockwood Village is the number one call center for DHS calls. So if you look at how many DHS calls go out, this is your hotspot. And this whole neighborhood, 182nd Yamhill, down about 10 blocks to where he lives, it is the hotspot in the state of Oregon for drug trafficking. Half the murders in Gresham the year prior to this were right here on the block. 2 right outside Mario's apartment, with his sister playing outside. And we had this riot over here, I believe it was like September of last year, where they brought in the Gresham PD, all the CBOs. The FBI was there. Like, how do we address the issues on this block? There's nothing around here. There's Boys and Girls Club way down on 160th and Star, but nothing right here, nothing on this hot spot. And I looked over the fence because we were in the clubhouse over there, and it's in this school where we used to meet, as this church used to meet in this school. It's called Rockwood Preparatory Academy, formerly the Portland Lutheran School. And I thought, why can't we do something out of that school over there, at least offer some sort of after school program, maybe the underground? So I reached out to John the bottom line is they had a vacant gym that they had considered unusable, total loss. And I said, hey, and it's right next door to Rockwood Village, like the fence is right here. And I basically worked an agreement because John was my friend. He knows we used to lease here for 5 years. He knows what we're about. And we basically had a handshake agreement that first day that said, we're going to work out a deal to turn this into a community center. And it's going to serve this neighborhood, because what was going on out here, and it goes back to your question, Gabe, about Aloha. A lot of these community-based organizations, they provide wraparound services. So if there's a shooting or there's family issues, or if there's counseling or whatever, they'll come and provide wraparound services when there's a need. But there isn't a presence, like a continued presence.
Yeah.
How do we love our neighbors and build something where there's relationship? And that has always been my frustration working with these CBOs, is like, once they change staff members, you kind of like, okay, where's the support? But the church, you guys, the local church, can be present all the time, serving the community, building trust. That's what we've done here. Hey, guys, no murders in the last year on this block.
Wow.
I was in a meeting with the city of Gresham, and I'm not saying it's just because we've been here, but I know we're part of the answer. There hasn't been one murder by gun violence in the last year since we've opened up the Hope Center here. And half of the murders were like right here. So we know they believe whatever's going on there, asis.church, Hope Center, Underground, is making a difference, saving lives.
Yeah.
You guys,
That's
who's going to
incredible.
be against that? When people are against the faith community, or they're, the work we I know I'm kind of getting preachy, but when we used to do a lot of work with the homeless, and which is needed, and caring for the people in the margins, people, oh, you're enabling them. That's not right. I'm just telling you, we still do that. But when one of your primary missional goals is to work with youth and end violence and raise up leaders that represent, like, my heart and dream is that Mario will continue to grow into leadership and take this to the next level in his neighborhood, because this is where he's from. Not just him. We got other interns and leaders. Luis, who's just finishing, who came in with him, he's an intern with us. He's finishing his, what's he doing? He's a senior at Western Oregon University. He came through the program. He's now an intern, getting his degree in business management. So he's now helping on our admin side. And we're like, you guys are the future. Everybody, we want to see them raised up. But I get fired up when you talk about how do we implement some of the practices and methods or whatever that we're doing here. If you've got the need, it's important to get behind the thing, the CBO. What makes a CBO really good in the church in that role is that we're willing to partner with other organizations. I've had, on almost a weekly basis, I'll have a church or another fitness gym reach out to us and say, how can we do what you're doing? I've been getting more and more. And I'm working with Dr. Steve Lewis. You guys know Steve over here with the Rockwood Center.
Yeah.
He opened up a CBO, and now he's working on developing an assessment for other churches and organizations to see if they're ready to move from a traditional model to a CBO-based model.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's where the Lord's leading me in the future, not so much to be the pastor and all this, but to kind of take this model as it continues to develop, because I really believe that this is really effective in terms of reaching. If you're committed to local mission, this is the way to go. You can still do your church. So we don't even put asis.church on the name on the building. Asis.church meets at the Hope Center, even though it's our umbrella. So we're like, hey, and we love everybody. We got Muslim, we got all different backgrounds coming to our classes, and we just love people. And multiple stories of kids coming through fitness, then their parents coming to support, and then them all coming to Christ. It's a beautiful model of evangelism. But our goal is not necessarily to proselytize people. It's just to love people because they're made in the image of God. And when God gets a hold of their heart, we just point them in the right direction. You know what I'm saying? And so, when
Yeah.
if you can
Yeah, it
find,
reminds me like a couple things I'm hearing from you, Scott. Like, hey, I think some of my Christian reformed is wearing off on you, because we just love people and let the Holy Spirit bring them in, exactly. But the second thing is like, 10, 15 years ago, Michael Frost was like, the way that churches in the future will be like evaluated is if this church left, would the community miss you? And I mean,
Yeah.
I see that ultimately with you guys, like literally, if something happened and you folded up, the neighborhood would miss you, and the neighborhood would go. It's like the Back to the Future Biff's world thing, it would be more violent again. It would be more addiction, more crime, and yeah, you guys are bringing shalom. Rockwood, you're bringing shalom. Wholeness, fullness of well being, peace to those blocks, and it's just it's beautiful. Yeah.
Pete, I'm impressed that you found a place to make a Biff reference and Back to the Future. That was very impressive. That was awesome.
Comes natural.
I got to have Overwatch Back to the Future. I mean,
Yeah. Oh, the whole trilogy. Maybe
Right.
January 1st, we can all get together, watch the trilogy.
Right.
Hey, I just want to say, as you've been talking and sharing, I think, Scott, my heart's starting to beat a little faster as I'm just listening to what you're saying. It's awesome to hear and see your passion. It's incredible to think that you're raising up a team of young people that share this vision that can carry it forward. I mean, that's the dream, I think.
Mhm.
And one of the things that I'm reminded of is these are all the things we've been praying for, as a city, as a church. And it's interesting to me that, people have been praying for this exact kind of thing to happen since well before COVID, right?
Right.
But it's interesting how sometimes it takes the loss of whatever we might have thought we were supposed to be doing before, to really surface those opportunities. And so I'm just so excited and proud of what you're doing, and that you noticed the need, that you noticed the opportunity, and that you stuck with it is I think that's the magic. And I hope if we've got people listening in, I hope we get people listening into this, watching this from inside Portland, obviously lots of church leaders, and we hear about that all the time. But we also know that sometimes somebody's considering, moving to the Portland area for ministry, to do gospel ministry. And man, I think in every community it's important, but in places like Rockwood, I think it's so important to have the long view, to have that long view of like, this isn't a year, this isn't a 2 year, this isn't a 5-year thing. This is a long haul. And it's beautiful that you guys are committed to that. Thank you.
Yeah, we will not give up. And part of the I want to shift a little bit, because I also know we have a lot of people that serve in bivocational ministry, and that's been a part of your story, Scott. And so you want to just, as by way of encouraging people, challenging people, what have been some of the joys of that? What have been some of the difficulties? What's it looking like for you right now?
It's been a great joy and difficult at times. Obviously, we're carrying a heavy load in bivocation. It looks a little different now than the last time we had discussed these. I mean, my wife and I still work at the other gym, but it's very minimal compared to what it used to be. And the reason we continue with that, because we have a full functioning gym here, but we stay connected to the CrossFit community based on our presence as a missional, I see that as our mission field over there now, more than just, anything like that. Like, it is a big part of our community, but also the CrossFit world is a very large network of affiliates worldwide that if anyone's familiar with it, you can walk into any CrossFit gym and get the basic methodology training wherever you go. When we're on vacation, but now we have our own CrossFit affiliate as the Underground PDX. We run it as a nonprofit. What's been interesting, the blessing that has come through that, the Underground has been promoted worldwide as a model for CrossFit.
Yeah.
Because there's always the business side of things. But to say, I even encourage, like in our staff meeting this week, Pete, Gabe, that I want our staff to be involved outside of the church in something. It doesn't have to necessarily be a job, but we need to be involved in, like for us, it's CrossFit. For others, it's other things, whatever your interests are, or maybe it is a job, because that's where we're building trust. That's where we're building relationships. That's where we're building these relationships that ultimately I feel, if the Lord moves, that can bring us closer into being a faith family member together, or something like that. But at the gym, I've never preached a sermon. I've never gone around quoting scripture. I coach. I lead by example. And I don't say this pridefully, but I'm a highly competitive CrossFit athlete. I work out, and he trains with me as well. But if we lead by example and are the real deal outside of the church, like within our other interests, people respect that. I've married people in the gym over there. There have been people from all different backgrounds that aren't people of faith, transgender, every walk of life in the gym. And we may not talk about it on the gym floor, but when there's a prayer need or the family need or something, they're asking me, or if I have to shepherd the gym ownership group or something, I'm the one that gets called in. The pastoral duties don't leave because we're in the gym. But I think if you can find something bivocationally that connects you into the community, and you can see it as part of your mission field, as part of your calling, your vocation, I think you found something, because to me, it wasn't just a job. I left a career to go into ministry, to raise funds early on when we planted. So I knew it was going to be rough to learn how to live below our means. As we've grown and as things have matured around here and some of these grants have come up, I've been able to focus more attention here and not have to coach as much and do other things like that. My wife also works. She's now the head coach here, but prior to this, she was 25 years a hairdresser. That was her counseling sessions, with all of her people. She never was the women's ministry leader or anything like that. We were invested in the church, but we didn't have that traditional, model or whatever. And it's what worked for us. There's, whatever works for you. But I think for me, it's been a blessing to have something we're passionate about. And I want to say this. I'm able to serve now in every capacity, basically, besides, preaching, with my wife and with our family. We train together in the gym. We do ministry together through the Underground. We're involved in our other gym and stuff outside of this together. And I think we're leading by example. What does that look like to have a marriage where you have the same interests? That wasn't true during the first half of our marriage. But the Lord opened up the doors for us to find something we're both interested. Funny story, Gwenna went to CrossFit first. I had grown into my 40s, put on the dad bod, putting on all this weight. I was like 270 pounds. She's going to this CrossFit gym, coming home with like calluses on her hands from pull-ups. I'm like, I'm not doing that. I can't get off the couch, I got to eat my ice cream. And so 11 years ago, I said, okay, I'll go check it out. And I hated it. It was so hard, you guys. I was dying. I'm like, I'm not ever coming back. They're all doing stuff in the gym that I couldn't do. I couldn't do a pull-up. I couldn't do 5 burpees without like passing out. Mario knows what that's about. But it's like, it was such a shaming. I felt so much shame when I walked in. But because of the community of CrossFit, we're so welcoming, and like everybody from every walk of life is doing the same workout and encouraging you. The last person who comes in is the one that gets the most praise. You're like, wait a second, this is a safe place to fail. Wait a second, there's no shame here. Wait a second, isn't that what the church is supposed to be like? These are transferable. The CrossFit gyms are doing church better than the church. And I was leading a church, and so there was so much crossover between vocation, bivocational, that I was like, man, there's so much we can learn from each other. And that has compounded as things have grown. I've got coaches coming from other gyms, high level athletes coming to help coach the kids here now because they see what's doing, wondering what's going on. So you got not only a faith community coming together, but we got this fitness community. And it's been a beautiful thing. So if you can find, I feel like it's the Lord's favor to put us in this position, because the things we're doing, we're passionate about fitness and our faith. It's not like, I got to go do this today. I mean, yeah, we have a lot of responsibility, but what more could I ask for?
Yeah.
And I think, I don't want to get off here without letting him talk about.
Exactly. I know. I have a question for him. I
want to bring this up real quick. There is tension, and I take him with me if I can to any of these types of things. We just were out in Tigered at my friend Neil Fernando's Mario Design. We went and talked to their group out there and took him and Luis. These young men, and he could speak to this, they don't trust white people, especially male. Like, he can tell you, like, it took him a while. Maybe he's still trying to learn whether he can trust me. I don't know. But it's like, we got to work through this stuff if we're going to be multi-ethnic and we're going to be investing in, like, we got to be the real deal. It isn't just like, and I think someone asked him recently, what is it that has changed for you, Mario? And he said that he was loved here. I mean, I don't know if you want to speak to some of that. What was the transition from the early days to like where you're at now?
Yeah, like a lot like back then, like when I first met Scott, and I would think, and I would talk with my friends who were also in the program. I'd be like, like I don't know about them, like why they wanna give us these workouts. Why do they want to help us, get more fit? I would just, because like I'm not used to that. Over here, there's not people out here that are like over here trying to help you, or even doing stuff like that. So like for a while, I was like on the edge. I was like, I don't know how I feel about this. Until like a lot more, until like I spend more time with them, and like I see like it comes from like a good place in their heart. That they have good intentions. They're not just like bad people, or like me personally. Like, I used to judge people, before really knowing them.
We all do, Mario.
Yeah.
I think what I've seen, you said you had a question for him, but one of the Mario, he would go to the city of Gresham meetings for these CBOs with us, and we'd talk about what are the challenges in the neighborhood. And Mario, living on the block, he has his first, he grew up here, like when I talk about the block, just this area neighborhood that we're focused on.
Yeah.
And he said, when the city would ask, what do we need over there? What's going on? He's like, no one's ever served our community. No one comes through. There are no block parties. He would say, I've never seen anyone coming through helping people out. We're on our own. And so then through Mario's experience, we've put on city block parties over here, and we've got kids now coming here, huge outreach events right in front of his apartment complex. The city got behind that, and all the CBOs. And you remember that? And you're like, hey, they asked you, what and you're like, we don't have any of those types of resources. We don't have any of those types of events. And so his voice has been one that has brought change to this neighborhood and this community. And I try to remind him, he's still a young man. He's 21, but I know he probably thinks he knows it all. No?
I don't know.
He knows some. But you asked about multiplying leaders on here. And we're not the young chickens we used to be, guys. Like these young people.
Yeah.
Who better than to, if we're truly going to be on mission, like, they should represent our neighborhood and our community. And we've got other interns that are now working here that have come over from Multnomah, George Fox, and they bring they bring a different flavor. It's typically around the fitness piece and the faith. They like our model of ministry. So we're all kind of working together here now to really solidify the model here, because I truly believe what we've embarked upon is going to be something that others can implement as well. And it doesn't have to be fitness. It could be whatever but we draw that interest because of that's kind of our lane. The other thing that's been cool is working. Gabe, I want to go back to the question you asked about Aloha. Like, how do you implement some of what we're doing, or, this type of ministry?
Yeah.
And I talked to a couple of the pastors from the West Side when we were out at a meeting recently, and they asked, how do we engage different cultures, like culturally specific? Like, we've got different groups here now that are attending the church. We got Latino, we got Pacific Islander, we've got Asian. It's like what we've embraced is learning to love everyone. That's great, but everyone comes in with a different ethic. Everyone comes in with a different mindset, different backgrounds. So we just try to create environments of love where I think the beauty of working together with other organizations, like with the Latino Network, we work directly with Latino Network here in our space. Are you guys familiar with Latino Network? They're a large nonprofit that works within the Latino community to provide services and all across the board. Well, we partner with them, and we're sharing the space. They bring their clients into our workouts. They've been to the church. We do different things. We're cross-cultural. So as we learn, and then we've got the different groups that come in from all different backgrounds, just here in the community, 91 different languages. Well, we're seeing these kids come from every background. We're ministering these kids and their families. But when it comes to culturally specific, we partner with these CBOs. Mm-hmm. We don't have to be the expert on how to reach that culture, but we've got a team that we're now a part of. When it comes to specific cultural issues, we work together instead of us trying to be the one size fits all. That has been very helpful, because then you're collaborating. So they know we're faith, we're family, we're fitness. We partner. They bring here, we partner with them. And that's the difference between CBO work and traditional church model. Mm-hmm. Traditional church model, at least that I've been exposed to in a lot of these smaller churches out here, you come to Sunday service, you hit a Wednesday night, prayer meeting, youth group. They don't let hardly anyone else in their buildings. We got to turn these buildings and these empty, vacant buildings into community centers.
I love that vision.
I'm like, that's my thing now. Like, hey, they come to me. I'm like, you willing to take the name of your church off the building and just put Rockwood Community Center or something like that? Because there's such a barrier now in our culture, even within the faith communities, so much, tension. Let's just create a space that's safe. People can find hope, healing, and belonging. That's what we're trying to do at the Hope Center. And then we go from there. And we partner with these CBOs locally to meet the needs of this specific neighborhood. So it's no longer like God has changed our vision, like we said early on. Like we're gonna open up multiple campuses. Like this big vision I had early on, which we started down that path. But now, like, hey, one block at a time.
Yeah, I love.
Our vision is this block because this is densely populated. If we can meet the 10,000 residents that are just on this block for as is in the Hope Center, we've done our job. And you know how refreshing that is? I didn't know I was running like a rat on a wheel for so long trying to take over the world. We can focus just on our neighbors right here and do what we do.
My old pastor, he used to say, in your situation, it would be, there are 10,000 people that are part of my church. 100 of them are going right now, but like my church is my parish.
I think it's a beautiful expression of what we see even in the New Testament. And like we've talked about on this show many times, the idea of like, how do you take ownership of your geography, And I really see that happening very well there with the Hope Center, with asis.church, with the underground. It's that's awesome. Appreciate you stepping out, both of you guys, to share with us and give us a little bit of inspiration. One of the things that I know everybody's going to be wondering is, how do they get a hold of you, Scott?
They can visit our website, asis.church or asis.church.com. We're on all social media, so you can hit our Facebook, Instagram. I think we got a TikTok. I don't know. I have to ask these guys about that. But
Mario probably knows.
But website is the best way, or they can, if they have any questions directly, email me at scott@asis.church.com or info@asis.church.com. And we would love to be in any way help share, what God has been doing and lessons we learned.
Thanks so much for joining us for this episode of Jesus in the Upper Left. We want to ask you a quick favor. Would you please subscribe so you don't miss a single episode, and share with those that are in your life that might benefit from the content. Hit the notifications button, rate and review, of course, and then head on over to upperleftshow.com where you can find bonus content, opportunities to connect with those around the city that are doing similar work as you, resources to help you, and just a way to connect to the community. We hope to see you again next time.